Print Fail Friday, episode 13, all about PPE in the resin 3D printing industry. Let's get into this. Hey, welcome back to Print Fail Friday. We are going to be talking all about resin 3D printing and the fails that we've been seeing in these past couple of weeks, specifically regarding PPE. Now, do you need to go this crazy? Probably not. Actually, I'm missing a piece of gear. I'm missing my respirator. The Better 3/4 is using it at work, so we don't have it here in the shop with its filters. I've got the respirator, but I don't have the filters for it. Do you need to use all of this? The answer is no, you don't. But should you be implementing some of it? The answer is yes. Let's kind of go through. Let's talk about the drip, if you will. We've got Lannon chemical handling gloves. These are nitrile based. They're crazy comfortable. Not a lot of great dexterity, but they're reusable. A lot of people have the one-time use nitrile gloves. I've got boxes of them myself. And they are incredibly good, and they serve a functional purpose of keeping your hands clean. But if you don't cure the resin before throwing it away, you've got a bit of a problem there, in that you're still putting raw resin into the trash. These are great because you can cure them, and then you can clean them off by just brushing them into the trash. These are spill rated, they're slash and cut rated, they're even biological rated. These are really good gloves and they're really cheap. Let's next go into the safety glasses. Okay, these are goggles and I've got glasses right here. The goggles are not all that comfortable. You can see for the little bit of time that I had them on for the intro, they've already left lines on my face. I'm sure there are better ones out there. These are just the ones that I had handy. And of course, safety glasses. If you do nothing other than gloves and safety glasses, for God's sakes, please just remember to do that. Protect your eyes. Wear a mask. We all have them still, whether you like wearing them or not. They're gonna protect your face and your nose from incidental splashing as well, if you don't want to go the full face mask. And I understand these face shields can be a bit of a pain, and with longer hair, they don't tend to stay there, and it's better than nothing. And for those of you like me with luscious locks, tie it back. Tie it back, get it out of the way. You don't want your hair falling into the resin or, somehow touching raw resin. So please don't do that. And I'm gonna make a special note for content creators. I know that a lot of us don't like wearing the PPE on camera because, oh yeah, everything reflects. But it's our duty to make sure that we are setting a good example for our viewers. So I'm going to make a challenge to all the content creators out there that utilize resin 3D printing. Please make sure that you're wearing the proper PPE. If you got to do a voiceover, do a voiceover. It's more important to set a good example, to me, than it is to have good content. Maybe that's why we're a 2,900 subscriber channel as of recording this. And I guess that's a good place for me to say make sure you get subscribed, because we are going to be showing really what 3D resin can do to skin very soon. Just get subscribed for that. You can use disposable gloves, but I do prefer these. The one downside to these that you don't have an issue on the disposables is that these gloves don't have the greatest dexterity, okay? It is difficult to really grab small and fine objects. These are not designed for that. But one thing they do have is they have a splash guard that comes up the sleeve. Lab coats are also good because they protect your clothing, and more importantly, they protect your skin. You can see this one is a bit of a lower collar. It's a unisex one, so it's got a lower collar, which is ridiculous. I like the higher collared ones. They really do protect most of your frame. And then the face shield comes down and protects where the lab coat doesn't. There's a little bit here of my shirt that is still exposed, but I think that's okay overall. If I'm getting resin splash right there, I've got way other concerns out there. I'm more looking at sleeves and the potential protection of the sleeves themselves. Lab coats are cheap as well. And the nice thing about the lab coat is it makes you look snazzy as frig, and it definitely adds like a +2 modifier to the IQ, so gonna go ahead and enjoy that. And while it does make you feel official, it also protects your clothing. And more importantly, it protects your arms. And if you're wearing like a tank top or something, it protects any exposed skin that the other PPE wouldn't. And incidental splashing is a thing, and we're not even talking about aerosolizing resin at this point. We are just talking about the little splashes and spills and things that can occur while you're working on parts. A great example is if you're trying to scrape things off a build plate and you do it, and they happen to scrape off and they hit your arm. If they hit your arm and you're wearing a lab coat, the lab coat has caught all that resin and you're fine. It's now time to stop, take off the lab coat, and go let it cure out in the sun or let it cure somewhere, because you don't want that raw resin sitting potentially on your skin. So please be careful about that. Something to note here, we're going to start pulling up some safety data sheets because this stuff is important. We're looking at SDSs from Form Labs. We can see there's a poison hazard, a general safety hazard, a skin irritant, as well as a caution under the disposal, and a massive environmental hazard. It is classified as hazardous to aquatic life, not may cause something. It is classified as hazardous. Straight up, it is hazardous. So when I tell you guys not to pour raw resin down the drain because it will poison your waterways, I'm literally not kidding. Please don't do that. And I don't care if it says water washable. It's not safe to go down the drain. Please don't do it. But this stuff is no joke. And recently we've had a massive viral forming of this airbrushing resin stuff. And we covered it actually 2 weeks ago on PrintFailFriday episode 11. I'll card to that video so you guys can go take a look at it. But recently, Twitter got a hold of it. And I want to give it a massive thank you and shout out to Willow Creative, Vulpin Props, and Venicos Props, and others that made sure to get this out there, with well over 1,000 retweets combined between them to talk about how dangerous this stuff is. Because let's be real, the industry tends to kind of ignore the safety issues that are involved in resin. Like, we've seen videos of people handling raw resin like there's no issues whatsoever, because most people are not going to be allergic to it immediately. It is over time you get very, very sensitive to it, to where even being in the same room as it can cause you to break out into hives. So please don't start that process. And I've been onto Facebook groups and I've had to bite my tongue because as a content creator, I kind of have to do that sometimes, where they're like, oh, well, a little bit is fine and this and that. No, it's not. It's not fine. We've got that smaller creator that created a viral video so much that even Adafruit themselves picked it up, and they did provide a small warning. I would have preferred it to be at the top in bold letters, but you know what? You take what you can get. But that creator had a duty that they failed. It is very simple to go back and refilm a video with the proper PPE. And we even had another creator talk all about it and say, we opted not to do a video all about it because the dangers were too high. They specifically noted the issues of overspray and how it basically coats everything in the area. What they failed to do is protect their own eyes and protect their own arms and body. What you'll see if you watch this video is that they're actually wearing a tank top. And while they do have room ventilation, it is behind them, so that as it is circulating the air, it is pulling air from in front of them past their body, therefore likely exposing them to that raw resin. Now, I'm glad that other people are talking about this on the internet, but for me, it's a do as I say, not as I do again, and it's a tough one. I appreciate that they addressed it, but they also then showed it working. So is this a PSA or is this a thinly veiled, hey, you should do it? I'm not here to comment either way. We've got another creator here that shows you how to resin print onto cloth, and then goes ahead and not only touches it with bare hands, absolutely no safety gear whatsoever, and then puts it into alcohol. Now, we don't know if that alcohol has had other resin in it. I honestly don't know. But he's touching raw resin with his bare hands and putting it now into alcohol that will have raw resin in it as it does its wash and cure. And don't get me wrong, the wash and cures are nice, but dude, there's still raw resin on this. It does take it off your part, but you have to remember that the fluid itself is contaminated now. And like, that's cool. It's actually very cool. But we have a problem still. The problem is that even with professional PPE, it is extremely toxic to disperse 3D print resin. It will linger in the air for a long time. If you don't have access to a paint booth like this is a professional paint booth. The person's wearing a full bunny suit. They're wearing gloves and even supplemental air from basically a BiPAP. It's probably the best way to describe this machine, but it provides you with filtered air. This is what you should be spraying resin inside of. It's effectively like spraying epoxy car paint, which is crazy toxic. There are tons of EPA regulations surrounding it, because if you do it wrong, you end up really hurting the environment. You should be doing 3D resin spraying inside of a paint booth. Make it look like Dexter was there. And Willow Creative says it correctly. This is the only way to spray uncured epoxy resin in any situation, in a dedicated, ventilated, and filtered spray room. It is still not recommended to do this as there are still risks, but if there is no other way to do so, this is the right way to do it. And I don't know about you, I don't have access to a professional paint booth. I'd love to have one. If, you know, anyone knows a company that'd like to hook us up with a professional paint booth, that'd be pretty dope. But it's likely not going to happen. So instead, don't do it. Praxis on this is dangerous. Don't smooth prints with uncured UV resin, and absolutely do not aerosolize it. In liquid state, photopolymer resin is a major skin and lung irritant and will remain that way for a long time if not cured adequately. This is true. This is absolutely true. We can see Veticos props as well, saying, fellow makers, stop encouraging people to airbrush UV resin. Aerosolized resin is extremely bad for your skin, your lungs, and will get on everything in a 10-foot radius. And actually, the video from Galactic Armory, while not showing proper PPE, clearly demonstrates how much overspray gets in your vicinity. And whether you've got the right VOC filters or you don't, they're not going to be easily able to filter it. Now, a big recommendation for Galactic Armory, put that VOC filter in the path of the spray. It should be able to take all of those stray particles out of the air. And I'm not saying for resin, do it when you're actually airbrushing regular paints. It will likely cut way down on your overspray. But remember, ladies and gents, a lot of us have either pets, loved ones, children that may not understand the dangers involved in this process. And it is our duty to not only make sure that they understand those dangers, but protect them accordingly. This lovable loaf of a cat, Miss Victoria, does not know better. She doesn't know better. So we protect her and keep her away from the resin. It's a very, very simple process. Now, I also want to point out Goobertown Hobbies. If you want to hear all about resin 3D printing from a PhD chemist, I highly recommend you check out their video. And coming toward the end of this video, my buddy Paul and I are going to sit down and talk about this as well. He is also a chemist and really knows his shit, and I'm excited to talk to him all about resin 3D printing and the dangers surrounding it. Something I do want to point out in Goobertown Hobbies video is that they went through and talked about the MSDSs of everything, talked about the main chemicals that are inside of resin, and was actually able to find an SDS from any cubic that includes specific numbers or close to specific numbers. Normal SDSs, like this one from Formlabs, says everything is proprietary. So they just tell you that it's a methacrylated ligament, a methacrylated monomer, and photo initiators. But that's it. They don't tell you anything else. Now, they tell you all about the dangers to it, but they don't tell you anything of what it is. Goobertown Hobbies found one that does, and this is their eco resin, so it's got fatty acids, soya, whatever those words are, that makes up you know, the most of it, which I think is some sort of like soybean fatty acid. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. But then there are all these words that even I myself cannot pronounce. If you can't pronounce the word, you might want to think twice before breathing it. Just gonna put that one out there. This stuff is no joke, and we can look at safety data sheets from forum labs and see causes skin irritant, may cause an allergic skin reaction. Over time it will. Causes serious eye irritation. Think about it. Your eyes are crazy delicate. And if you get raw resin into your eyes, it's going to cause irritation. Even further, if you cure it, even accidentally by walking out into the sunlight, that is really bad news. And let's talk about something real quick. Those of you that wear contact lenses, when you're working on resin, take them out and put on your regular glasses. Eyeglasses, while not as good as safety glasses because they don't wrap around to the side of the eyes, you can get the little add-ons that enable that. I'm not certain resin's effect on contact lenses, but I know for a fact that contact lenses and cyanoacrylate don't mix. And there is acrylite in here. Now, I don't know if it's the cyano part or the acrylite part. Again, I'm not a chemist, but I wouldn't want that anywhere near my delicate eyes, especially if I was wearing contacts. So make sure you wear those safety glasses. May cause allergy or asthma symptoms or breathing difficulties if inhaled. If you are aerosolizing resin, you are not wearing a respirator. You are inhaling it, period. You could be doing it in a damn wind tunnel. You will still end up inhaling something. May cause respiratory irritation. Yeah, if it gets into your lungs, it's gonna be a problem. And it is harmful to aquatic life. And we see right in the precautionary statements, avoid breathing gas, mist, vapors, or spray. Don't aerosolize resin. Wash skin thoroughly after handling. If you can, wash it in a vat of clean water. Don't wash it in the sink because you can poison your waterways. Now, look, if it's a little bit of resin, it's better to get it off your hands as quickly as possible and risk a slight contamination than waiting to fill up a thing of water to wash your hands in. Get it off your hands as quickly as possible. But if you're wearing the right gloves, you've got a lab coat on, all of this stuff should not be a problem anymore. If you wear your proper PPE, all of these hazards and precautionary statements are taken care of. Again, avoid release to environment. Contaminated work clothes, keep them in the workplace. Now, my only caveat to that is, do not wash your clothes that have dirty resin on them that is not cured. Don't wash it. Make sure that you cure the resin on the clothing first before you go and wash it. Because if you don't, you're just basically contaminating all the other clothing in that wash cycle. What we like to do is we have a few different lab coats, and when they do get resin on them, they go outside to dry, out in the sun where they can cure for hours. We live in Florida. It is early December and it is 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 24 degrees centigrade outside. And it says it's mostly cloudy, but the windows behind me say otherwise. There is plenty of UV light outside to cure clothing. And if you have high-powered UV lights, you can use those as well. It's kind of up to you as to how you do it. But ultimately, the safety comes down to what you are willing to do. You can get a full kit of safety gear like I showed you for well under $200. And if you're going to spend $200 on the printer, I would think minimally get yourself some safety glasses, get a cheap lab coat, or wear some old clothes. Right? Go to your local thrift store and buy a lab coat or some scrubs that fit you. Those are better than nothing. Those gloves that I showed you are like $13. Of course, links to all of that will be down in the description, affiliate links, because yeah. But I don't want you guys to end up on a Print Fail Friday because you ended up in the hospital for exposure to resin. We've talked about it in the past of how resin does cause chemical burns, and we've linked to photos to show you how bad it actually can be. Now, I know none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, and there have certainly been times where I went to clean off a print and I wasn't wearing gloves, and I had to stop, collaborate, and listen, where I had to stop, put the build plate down, go and get some gloves, and start over. Because a lot of times when you're rushing, you're not thinking about it. We now have all of our PPE on easy accessible hooks right by the resin stations. So if you're going to be working on it, go ahead and put it on. We wear respirators, we have VOC filters, we have everything that we need to keep ourselves safe when we are resin 3D printing. Now again, you don't have to go to level 11 like we do. You can start small and work your way up. With one printer, having really good ventilation is probably your most important thing. If you can smell it, it's releasing volatile organic compounds. That's what you smell, are those VOCs. So make sure you get those VOCs out, whether it's through a vent fan in a bathroom, through a printed fan duct system to vent it outside. But if you do vent this to atmosphere, throw a carbon filter in there just to be safe. They're very, very cheap, and that can help filter out some of those VOCs so that you're not just pushing it out into the environment. Care about the world we live in so we can make it last a little bit longer for future generations. Am I right? I want to know, down in those comments, what do you do? What is your process? Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Are there things that I'm missing that you think we should have? Because I know we are not the kings of PPE. Only recently did I find those gloves, and I'm really glad I did. They actually have real ratings on them for chemical handling. Like, they're legit. They're actually pretty affordable. I used to use the disposable gloves, and every now and then we still will, but I'm going to be switching over to those full-time very soon. But I want to know what you guys do for safety down in those comments. I'd love to have a conversation with you down there. And with all that being said, let's cut to some footage of myself and my buddy Paul, who does understand a lot of chemistry, talking all about the inherent dangers of resin 3D printing. Take it away, Future Grant and Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Certainly, if you're aerosolizing resin, which, like, I saw that video and I said, oh my god, oh, there are so many things wrong, and like I've seen people do this where they're wearing respirators, but they have no eye protection on.
Yeah.
Like that's, do I prefer resin in my lungs or in my eyes? I honestly don't know which one I want more, but I know I don't want either one of them.
Yeah.
Like you should be wearing swimming goggles at that point, I would think, right? Something to seal around the face.
Yeah, I mean, you'd want to be wearing, chemically rated goggles that do have sealing around the face, like you would if you were a freshman chemistry student working in a lab.
The only goggles that I had laying around are these, but they're definitely not sealed.
Yeah, I don't think they're even allowed to wear those anymore. I think they have to be sealed.
Oh really?
Yeah.
What are kind of the dangers here? Like what happens with this resin?
I mean, that's one of the things that's a little bit tricky about this, because well, first off, right, as that Goobertown Hobbies video, if I recall, points out quite correctly, all the resins are sort of different, right?
Yes.
They have different things in them, and all of them are going to sort of have different levels of hazard.
11 herbs and spices of hazard.
Right. So if we consider that all of the resins are going to have some methyl methacrylate, right? That is the monomer portion of what's in a resin.
Right.
Is that in and of itself, and I see a lot of things on Twitter, like people are like, this is a cancer causing agent, blah, blah, blah. If you look up the MSDS of methyl methacrylate monomer, there aren't strong links to cancer. It has a pretty low LD50, or sorry, pretty high LD50 is how it should be. So it takes a lot to make it toxic. So it's not like it's like this super hazardous thing. It does cause irritation to skin and eyes, which is, and mucous membranes are always going to be worse to get anything that's an irritant into your nose, your eyes, your mouth. There is toxicity for drinking it, right? Like if you
don't drink the forbidden milkshake.
Yeah, if you swallow it, right, you're going to have some bad effects. You're probably going to vomit and throw up. Now, it's like anything where the amount of exposure is important as well.
Yes.
So the one thing is you could probably do this, 1 or 2 times without anything, and maybe you cough a little bit. You have a little bit of irritation. That's going to be just the normal effects of these chemicals. And if you think about it, isopropyl alcohol, ethanol, any of these things are also going to be having very similar effects, right? It will actually bother your mucous membranes.
Oh yeah, aerosolizing alcohol is a great way to start coughing. Just a guaranteed way to start coughing.
So in that sense, like there's some overblown ideas of the toxicity of the compound. Right?
Yeah, it's not like as soon as you breathe it in, it's going to kill you.
Right. And there's not like real strong evidence that it causes cancer from what I have seen from MSDSs that I've looked at in the past. But that prolonged exposure, increases those chances. So you wouldn't want to do that repeatedly. Now,
right.
The other thing is that there are going to be some effects that you don't know, right? Like some people, it is an extreme irritant where you develop actually an immune response to it. And for those people, it's going to be, every single time is going to be worse. I agree with you. I think one of the things that it comes down to is that there is, for every sort of hobby, there is a lack of appreciation for safety. All the lab coats for is to keep it off of your normal clothes.
It's like another layer of protection.
If you get it on, you're supposed to just throw that stuff away. And like if a lot of things, we have to do a lot of safety training, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually don't know if my current institution had this policy, but I know when I was a graduate student, we had to do a lot more safety training because I was actually working with a lot more hazardous stuff. You get it on your clothes, you're instructed to strip naked and go in the hallway and pull the shower, right? I mean, that's it. It's like, you're not supposed to, oh, I got it on my shirt, It's like, hey,
phooey.
It's time to get the bath.
Yeah, I am not telling people as soon as they get resin on their clothes to strip naked. No.
That could be entertaining. Once they're polymerized, right, then it's really not a hazard anymore. That's true for
eat
it. Well, yeah, you don't want to eat it, but it's not going to have the same effect because it has different reactivity now.
Right.
Right.
So,
I've
got some cured resin parts here. I can handle these without any danger whatsoever.
Right.
Other than like potentially eating this. This is a small part, and some people do think I'm a child, so there might be some danger involved in here.
I think a lot of it just starts with people calling out these videos and just saying, those are bad practices. Here are good practices. Pointing to our friend Billy Rubin's poster that she did, right? About here are safe practices for using resin.
Yep.
And like, honestly, Elegoo and Peopoly and all these companies, they should just print a bunch of those and stick them in the boxes, right?
I want it on the bottles. I throw the boxes out. I want it on the bottles. There's so much room on that bottle for another sticker. But give me a tip-in card. You don't even got to do anything else. Put a tip-in card in the damn box.
If people do continue to call out such videos, and then another important part of that is link it to the good information.
Yeah.
Right? That is a way that hopefully you're minimizing the amount of impact on as many people as possible.
I'm going to be reaching out to
the most impact. I'm not sure.
That's fair, right? The people have to be willing to listen. If they're not willing to listen, then there's no impact we're going to have anyways.
And there is, I think I should comment on this as well, is that there also is a skill set level. And I don't want to like make it sound like, oh, this person, these people can do it, these people can't. But, and this came up in the Goobertown Hobbies video. At the end of the video, he's like, as far as safety, I work with a lot scarier stuff than this.
Yep.
Right. And which is also the case for me, like nerve agents and stuff like that. So there is a matter of, I feel very in control when I'm working with something that I might take fewer precautions than someone else just because of my skill set that I have. I mean, I can open 50 mil tubes, conical tubes, open and close with one hand, and all those things that I've gained experience with over the years.
Right.
And not everybody has that. So like, I'm not going to make YouTube videos of myself doing that and putting it out there and saying that this is the way it should be done, because clearly there are better practices than that. But, I will fully admit to cutting, some corners on things just because I know what my skills are. It's a good idea if you've got it on, sometimes I use like paper towels or napkins or something to wipe off a plate, and I stick them in a clear barrel and then just set that outside. And there's also, and this is an old, chemistry trick, is that it's always cheaper to dispose of solid waste than it is to dispose of liquid waste. So if you can solidify anything by mopping it up with a paper towel or setting it out in the sun to be polymerized, right? Always do that. Always make it solid waste rather than liquid waste, because it's the liquid wastes that are more dangerous, and putting them down the sink. Well, yeah, and there are toxicity issues when you start putting it into the water supply. So, I mean, honestly, I use latex gloves, and everybody's like, latex nitrile, you shouldn't use latex. It doesn't matter. Vinyl is not good, but because that degrades very quickly, but it's about contact time of exposure. And when I'm wearing latex gloves to do resin, I mean, basically I don't touch a resin print, right? I don't physically touch it until it's already been washed in isopropanol.
Same deal. I've gotten to that point where, all right, I can take the build plate, I'm taking it over my washing cure, and I'm scraping it right into the washing cure. I'm hitting go. I'm putting everything back. It's in the basket. Then I pull the basket out, which of course doesn't touch the parts. I let them drip dry, and then 2 to 3 hours later, when they're fully dry, then I will handle them.
Yeah, right. So the chances of touching resin are really, in my experience doing this, are when you're opening up the top and you're loosening up the build plate, right? And so if you know that that's where your potential issues are, you can plan accordingly when you're doing that. And I always I take the build plate off and I have a little thing just to hang it to let it drip a little bit first. So, I know where the hazard points are for me when I'm doing it. So.
Yeah, the big thing is like you said, build that system. And once you have that system, understand what level of safety that you are personally comfortable with. And if you say, I'm not comfortable with any safety, get rid of your printer. You don't deserve it.
Yeah, you shouldn't be using a printer if you're not using a resin printer, if you're not using some kind of safety.
Anyways, guys, that's all that I have for you today. I appreciate you making it this far in the video, and if you did, make sure you leave a like and get subscribed. We do content like this all the time, and I want to be very conscious of making sure that we provide proper PPE recommendations when at all possible. I'd love to know your thoughts on PPE down in those comments. Let me know, did I get anything wrong? Am I missing something? Is there a type of PPE that I need to try that I may not know about? Because I'm kind of excited to learn all about that. I'd love to know your thoughts down in those comments. That's really all I have for you all today. Stay safe out there, wear PPE when necessary, don't forget to call your loved ones, and as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.
Hi. You can't get to me. I'm filming. I know, I'm filming. I need you to decide if you're gonna stay or if you're gonna go. It's literally to show about PPE, okay? Alright. Okay. We're here. Is this actually episode 13? I actually think this is episode 13. It's so hard to scroll with these gloves. Damn near impossible. It literally is episode 13. Wow.
Choose your player. Need you here. Thank you. I will love you in just a second. Here. These are clean. They're brand new. I bet you she will love getting scritched with these. I bought them just for the video. Ha! You can't hurt me in these. They're literally bite-proof. Well, they're cut-proof, which is basically the same thing ultimately. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of the creators that have been adding volume to all of this, letting people know that resin 3D printing can be safe if you do it correctly, but aerosolizing and airbrushing resin is not safe. It's important, and I'm going to link to all of them down in that description so you guys can go check them out and give them the credit they deserve. But a massive thank you also goes out to our Patreon supporters. The $5 tier and higher are listed right next to me. Thank you guys for all that you do to support us making these videos possible. I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Right below me will be the entire Print Fail Friday series, where failure is always an option. We just try to make it less of an option. And right next to that will be the Sanjay series. The final episode for the Sanjay series is coming soon, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But it is an interview that I had with the late Sanjay Mortimer of E3D, a man that has democratized the 3D printing industry. So go take a listen to that if you haven't already. And if you have, one more time probably won't hurt. I will see you guys down in those comments and in the next one. Take care.